SafetyNet Technologies designs and builds devices to increase selectivity in commercial fishing practices. They're trying to answer one of the industry's big challenges. How do we stop catching the wrong fish? Dan, how is SafetyNet Technologies preserving marine ecosystems and making them more sustainable?
SafetyNet, we try to introduce technology into the fishing sector. So our big goal is to enable precision fishing. And that means that fishing crews can catch the fish that they actually want to catch, the target species, and avoid the other things that they don't want to catch. It means they can use the fishing vessels more optimally, so they're using resources better to achieve their goals. And ultimately creating a more sustainable fishing sector, so like making sure the environment isn't being damaged unnecessarily, understanding where fish stocks might be. And all the technology that we build is aiming to enable this vision of precision fishing.
This is a really important area to advance because 1 in 10 fish are being caught incorrectly today and billions of organisms are dying unnecessarily, and it's creating a lot of overhead for the fishing industry that's unnecessary.
On the one hand, you see this sort of environmental impact, which is terrible, or it can be depending on the fishery. Some are doing great, others less so. But there's also, wherever there's waste in business as well, right? So if it's not efficient, it's not optimal, then you're going to be losing money, your bottom line suffers too. And it's not just the environmental sustainability, which is crucially important, but it's also the financial sustainability in jobs and communities as well.
What are the elements of precision fishing technology that you're building?
So we started off, actually, the first thing we built was a tool called Pisces. And this is using light to try and cut down on bycatch. So this is a big issue where essentially you go after a target species of fish, but you might catch something that you're not intending to catch. So that could be a juvenile species or the entirely different species from what you're aiming for, which means that you can't sell it, you can't land it, and ultimately it might end up dead in the water again. So the other things that we're also approaching are using camera systems and other sensor systems to start analyzing what happens during fishing process. So they send this thing down, it's kind of like a black box, it comes back up, and they just see the result. So we're trying to open up that whole understanding of what happens in the fishing vessel, in the gears and around it, to understand why there are different species there, what's going to happen, and how they can plan better.
So you're putting devices into the fishing nets to make them intelligent?
Yeah, exactly. We've chosen a particularly hard problem because we're building stuff that goes into the ocean, which basically tries to destroy everything you put in there. And then it has to go down to hundreds, if not thousands of meters of depth. And it has to survive and do this day in, day out. And then it's electronic. So like you've got all these different things that we're trying to build stuff for, and we've kind of bitten off this big problem.
What are the first deployments of SafetyNet Technologies doing in terms of the sensors and the data they're providing?
The first camera system that we're building is a camera system, right? But it's really rugged. It allows you to see what's happening in the fishing gear. But it also logs like what time things were happening, and it can start to look into which species were in there with a bit of machine learning so that you can start to jump to the really useful points of any fishing operation. So when did the fish arrive? What species were there? Where did they go? Did the thing that I installed to make them escape actually work? Which for us is super important because that's mostly what we do. And the other sensors that we're building around things like temperature, salinity, turbidity, like what's going on in the water column.
I see.
Like why are some species there and why are others maybe not?
And then predicting what the right time to fish is to get the product that you want, is that the ultimate outcome?
Yeah, exactly. So we fuse lots of this data together. We're in really early stages right now for the sensory stuff, but we start to fuse this data together with things like satellite imagery, historical catch records, and look for trends. Like if the vessel was here at this time of year with this kind of gear, what happened? And can we start to see trend points for that and start to say, okay, well, you have a higher chance that if you're here at this time with this stuff, it's going to do this. And that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve.
And fishermen are already facing a lot of challenges from a regulatory standpoint in order to try to make their industry more sustainable. How do they overcome these challenges with the SafetyNet Technologies platform?
The regulatory element is a huge factor in how fast an industry will actually uptake new technologies. So you've got the carrot and stick, right? You've got regulation that incentivizes technology's deployment, and then you've got the side which actually sort of means that you just shouldn't be catching the other side of things. So using this technology, if you can catch the right fish within management bounds and like well-managed fisheries, it means you can catch more of your quota. Because in many fisheries now, if you catch too much of the wrong fish, they can shut the fishery down. They can remove fishing licenses from fishing vessels too. So it's in a fishing crew's interest to make sure they're targeting and catching only what they're looking to, because there's a business risk there that they will get stopped from fulfilling their business.
There's pressure coming from government, but at the same time, there's also business pressure in terms of how thin the operating margins are in the industry. How does your technology help improve margins at the same time?
So one is that actually by catching only the right fish, you fill your cargo hold in your vessel with the things that you want rather than the other stuff. Exactly, the stuff you can sell. And on the other side, it's being able to plan the trip better. So like you don't end up steaming for 2 days to a fishing site where there's a lower likelihood of there being the catch that you're looking for. And that means you're burning fuel, which is the key metric here, right? Like that's the money in versus money out. So by planning this and optimizing it, you can have a better return.